Gratitude is not a passive feeling, it's a force. It's one of the most underrated powers we possess as human beings. In a world constantly chasing more success, more money, more validation, gratitude is the quiet revolution that changes everything. You see, most people think of gratitude as a polite thank you or a fleeting moment of appreciation when things go well. But real gratitude, the kind that shakes your soul awake, isn't reserved for perfect days. It's forged in discomfort, in the middle of chaos, and in the silence of things we take for granted. It's when you learn to whisper thank you, even when life whispers back, not yet. Imagine waking up tomorrow with only what you were grateful for today. That's not a threat, it's a truth we live with every single day, unnoticed. Gratitude transforms perception. It doesn't change the world, it changes how you see the world. And when your vision changes, your choices follow. Your energy shifts. Your relationships deepen. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and the mundane becomes sacred. Gratitude is not a denial of struggle. It's not naive optimism. It's courage. To find even a sliver of light in the darkest of nights and say, this too has meaning. Gratitude is the philosophy of those who refuse to be victims of circumstance. It's the strength to say, I may not control everything, but I control how I meet it. The most powerful people in the world are not those with crowns or titles. They're the ones who walk through fire and still manage to see beauty in ashes. Gratitude is their armor. It is perspective sharpened into wisdom. It is peace without complacency. It is fuel without burnout. Gratitude doesn't make you passive, it makes you unstoppable. Because a grateful heart doesn't fear loss, it sees value in what's already here. So next time you feel like you're falling behind, look around. You're breathing. You've made it through every hard day so far. Someone somewhere would trade lives with you without hesitation. You're standing in the middle of answered prayers and forgotten blessings. Gratitude is not an emotion, it's a discipline. A way of being. A quiet revolution that rewrites the story you tell yourself. Gratitude isn't just a feeling you stumble upon when everything is going right, it's a decision. A power. A lens through which the brave choose to see the world. Most people think of gratitude as something passive, a gentle nod of appreciation, a polite response when life hands you a win. But that's a surface version. The real force of gratitude lives much deeper. It's not reactive, it's proactive. It's something you create, not just something you feel. There's a quiet but unshakable strength in someone who chooses to be grateful, not just for the obvious blessings, but even for the challenges that carve them into who they are. Gratitude is not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is perfect. It's about owning your perspective with power. When you recognize that you can shape your reality by the way you respond to it, you begin to see gratitude for what it truly is, a tool of transformation. When you wake up and decide to focus on what's working, instead of what's missing, you're not just being positive. You're taking control. You're choosing a narrative that serves you rather than one that drains you. That's not weakness, it's mastery. Gratitude, in its highest form, becomes a weapon against fear, against entitlement, against bitterness. It becomes your shield and your compass. People who live with this kind of gratitude don't live smaller lives, they live freer ones. Because they're not constantly chasing something to feel whole. They've already found wholeness in what they have, who they are, and how far they've come. Gratitude becomes the foundation for growth. It's what grounds you when everything else is uncertain. That's the real power. It doesn't scream. It doesn't show off. It simply is, quietly altering the way you experience every moment, until one day you realize, you didn't just survive life. You shaped it. And gratitude was the reason. Gratitude isn't reserved for perfect days. It's not something we only dust off when life is going our way, when the sun is shining, the bills are paid, and the people around us are treating us exactly how we hoped. No, the real power of gratitude is revealed in the storms. It's easy to be thankful when everything is in harmony, but the most meaningful gratitude, the kind that changes you, shows up when nothing makes sense. There's something profoundly courageous about finding something to be thankful for when you're in pain. It's not denial. It's defiance. It's standing in the middle of your mess, your heartbreak, your uncertainty, and saying, "Still, I see value here. Still, I will not be broken by this." That's when gratitude becomes a revolutionary act. Life doesn't come with guarantees. Things fall apart. Plans fail. People leave. And in those moments, the world tries to convince you that you've lost everything. But gratitude steps in like a quiet voice that says, "Look again. Look deeper. Look harder." Because even here, especially here, there is something to carry forward. A lesson. A strength. A spark. The people who inspire us the most aren't the ones who've had the easiest lives. They're the ones who have suffered and still found light. They've learned to say thank you not because life was perfect, but because they discovered that meaning could grow from struggle. Gratitude, in its most authentic form, is forged in the fire. It doesn't pretend things are okay, it chooses to honor what is okay, even in the midst of what isn't. That kind of gratitude doesn't make you soft. It makes you unshakable. Because once you learn to see the good in the hardest moments, the world loses its power to break you. You start living with the knowledge that beauty and pain can exist in the same breath. And from that place, you stop waiting for the storm to pass, you start learning how to dance in the rain. Gratitude doesn't change your circumstances, it changes the way you see them. And that shift in perspective is where the real power lies. Because the moment you change the lens through which you look at life, everything begins to transform. Not because the world outside has changed, but because you have. The eyes through which you view your situation become clearer, wiser, more alive to what's already present rather than obsessed with what's missing. Most people go through life waiting for something big to happen before they feel thankful. They think gratitude is a reaction. But in truth, it's a perspective, a choice to see what's already there. You can wake up in the same bed, walk through the same job, deal with the same problems, and still feel like life is brand new. Not because it is, but because you've shifted your focus. What once felt like a burden begins to look like a blessing in disguise. The routine becomes a rhythm. The chaos starts to feel like construction. Gratitude clears the fog of comparison. It silences the noise that says, "You're behind, you're not enough, you're missing out." Instead, it centers you in the moment, in the truth of your own journey. It teaches you to pay attention, to the kindness in a stranger's smile, to the lessons hidden in failure, to the strength you didn't know you had until you had no choice but to use it. When your perspective changes, your energy follows. You stop moving through life as a victim of your circumstances and begin to act like someone who understands the weight of what they carry. You start showing up differently, more present, more compassionate, more powerful, because you're no longer focused on what's out of reach. You're rooted in what's already real. This is not about pretending things are perfect. It's about seeing perfectly, even when things aren't. Gratitude doesn't need everything to be right, it just needs you to notice. And once you do, the ordinary becomes sacred, and the smallest moments carry the biggest meaning. That's the power of perspective. That's the power of gratitude. When you live with gratitude, something extraordinary begins to happen, the ordinary stops being ordinary. What once felt routine or invisible becomes radiant with meaning. You no longer need grand achievements or rare moments to feel alive. The simple act of breathing in the morning air, the sound of someone laughing beside you, the warmth of sunlight on your face, these become treasures. Not because they're rare, but because you've finally learned how to see them. Gratitude awakens you. It turns down the noise of wanting and turns up the volume on presence. You stop sleepwalking through your days, always chasing the next big thing, and you start noticing the brilliance in the now. You begin to realize that life isn't something waiting for you in the future, it's happening right here, in real time, in small, beautiful ways. So many people miss their lives because they're too busy measuring them. Measuring progress, measuring success, measuring worth. But gratitude doesn't measure, it magnifies. It takes what you already have and expands it. It transforms a cup of coffee into a moment of peace, a shared glance into a connection, a challenge into a stepping stone. Suddenly, you're not just existing, you're experiencing. That's the miracle. The power of gratitude isn't about escaping reality, it's about being fully immersed in it. When you approach life with a grateful heart, even the most mundane tasks start to glow with a quiet kind of magic. The same walk, the same job, the same people, they all feel different because you are different. You're not waiting for joy to appear, you're recognizing that it's always been there, woven into the background, just waiting for your attention. Gratitude doesn't add more to your life, it reveals what was already there. And once you begin to see the sacred in the simple, you'll never live the same way again. You'll stop chasing moments and start living them. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of a deeply fulfilling life. There's a kind of strength in gratitude that most people overlook. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need attention. But it's there, quiet, steady, unshakable. Gratitude is not for the faint-hearted. It's not just a feel-good practice for when things are going smoothly. No, real gratitude is a discipline of the strong. It's what keeps you grounded when everything else is trying to pull you apart. When life hits hard, it's easy to give in to bitterness, to focus on everything that's gone wrong. But choosing gratitude in those moments? That's power. That's inner armor. It's the decision to say, this may not be what I wanted, but I can still find something here that gives me strength. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the kind of strength that doesn't rely on external validation or ideal conditions. It's built from the inside out. Gratitude allows you to carry pain without being defined by it. It doesn't erase the struggle, it redefines your relationship with it. You begin to see your hardships as teachers, your failures as fuel, your scars as proof that you've grown. And that mindset doesn't just help you endure, it helps you evolve. The strongest people in any room aren't always the loudest. Sometimes, they're the ones who've been through storms and still find a reason to smile. They've lost things they cared about, faced nights filled with doubt, walked through seasons of silence, and yet, they hold on to something deeper. That's gratitude. That's real strength. Because when you're grateful, you're not waiting for circumstances to empower you, you're already empowered. You have the clarity to see the bigger picture, the maturity to appreciate the process, and the heart to keep moving forward. Gratitude makes you resilient not by removing the weight of life, but by reminding you of your ability to carry it. And when that truth settles in your bones, you realize, gratitude is not just something you feel. It's something you become. Gratitude is often misunderstood as a soft emotion, something passive, almost fragile. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Gratitude doesn't make you weaker, it makes you unstoppable. It doesn't slow you down, it sharpens your focus and fuels your spirit. People assume that if you're grateful, you're settling. That you've stopped striving. But real gratitude doesn't kill ambition, it elevates it. It aligns it. It gives you a reason to rise, not just a reason to rest. When you operate from gratitude, you stop chasing things out of fear, fear of not being enough, fear of falling behind, fear of failure. Instead, you start moving with purpose. With clarity. With joy. You're no longer driven by the desperate need to prove your worth, because you already recognize the worth in what you have and who you are. And from that place of grounded appreciation, you become more creative, more courageous, more alive. Gratitude empowers you because it removes the illusion that you're lacking. When you realize how much is already within you and around you, you stop scrambling for validation. You stop comparing your path to others. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You begin to act, not from emptiness, but from fullness. Not from pressure, but from passion. And that shift is everything. Because people who are fueled by gratitude don't break as easily. They don't quit when it gets tough. They've trained themselves to look for meaning, to extract value, to appreciate the process even when the outcome is uncertain. They can endure setbacks without losing sight of their purpose. They can grow through discomfort without becoming bitter. Gratitude doesn't ask you to ignore your hunger, it teaches you to honor what you've already received, so you move forward with humility, not entitlement. You dream big, not because you're running from something, but because you're standing on solid ground. Gratitude isn't the end of growth, it's the foundation of it. It's the mindset of someone who's not only ready to succeed, but ready to enjoy the journey. Every step of the way, gratitude has a way of quieting the chaos. In a world that constantly screams at you to want more, do more, be more, gratitude steps in like a deep breath for the soul. It doesn't numb your ambition or mute your desire to grow, it simply brings peace to the process. It grounds you. It gives you the power to pause, to appreciate, to understand rather than just react. That stillness isn't emptiness. It's wisdom. When you're grateful, you stop rushing. You stop panicking. You start listening, not just to others, but to yourself. And in that space of presence, something incredible happens, your mind becomes clear, and your heart becomes open. Gratitude turns down the volume of anxiety and turns up the volume of awareness. You begin to notice the subtle details, the silent gifts, the hidden lessons. That kind of presence creates peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer driven by fear of what's missing. You're anchored in what's meaningful. But peace isn't the only gift. Gratitude also sharpens you. It makes you more emotionally intelligent. When you're grateful, you don't take things for granted, not people, not time, not opportunities. You become more thoughtful. More intentional. You begin to treat each moment, each connection, each challenge with respect. You grow out of impulsiveness and into insight. You see deeper into people. You understand the value of patience. And slowly, the way you move through the world changes, not just for your own benefit, but for everyone around you. The person who lives with gratitude doesn't need to dominate the room, they lift it. They don't demand respect, they inspire it. Because gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a way of showing up in life. With presence. With clarity. With depth. And in a world full of noise, that kind of energy is rare. That kind of energy is magnetic. So, if you want peace that isn't easily shaken, if you want wisdom that doesn't fade in difficulty, if you want to live a life that resonates far beyond surface-level success, then let gratitude lead the way. It will not only steady your soul, it will elevate your mind. And that's a kind of power nothing else can match. Gratitude isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you train yourself to live. It's not just an emotional high that shows up when life is generous, it's a discipline you practice, especially when life is not. Gratitude, in its highest form, is not reactive, it's intentional. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you choose, over and over again, until it becomes the way you see the world. And yes, there will be days when it feels impossible. Days when your heart is heavy and your mind is tired and the last thing you feel is thankful. That's exactly when gratitude becomes the most powerful. Because when you practice it in the absence of comfort, in the middle of uncertainty, it strengthens you. It rewires your perspective. It teaches your spirit to look for the lesson, not just the loss. To find beauty even in the brokenness. That's not denial, that's depth. Gratitude is a muscle. If you don't use it, it weakens. But the more you engage with it, through reflection, through presence, through writing, praying, breathing, noticing, the stronger it becomes. And suddenly, your default way of seeing the world changes. You no longer live only for the highs, because you've learned how to uncover light even in the lows. This discipline doesn't remove your ambition, it refines it. It shapes your hunger into something purposeful. It builds endurance, perspective, and grace. It's what allows you to go through difficulty and not come out bitter. It's what helps you celebrate others without feeling small. It's what reminds you, even on your worst days, that you are still becoming, and that, in itself, is something to be grateful for. Gratitude isn't a finish line. It's a way of walking the path. And when you make it your discipline, not just your emotion, it becomes the compass that keeps you steady, the anchor that holds you through storms, and the fire that keeps you moving forward, with heart, with humility, and with purpose. Gratitude has this incredible way of revealing abundance where you thought there was scarcity. It's easy to look at life and feel like you don't have enough time, enough success, enough love, enough peace. But what gratitude does is turn that scarcity upside down. It flips the script and shows you that, right here and right now, you already have enough. Not because life is perfect, but because your heart is open to see the fullness in what is. When you live in gratitude, you stop chasing a future that promises happiness and instead find joy in the present moment. You realize that the more you're after isn't what makes life meaningful. What makes life meaningful is the ability to recognize the richness in the little things you already possess. The smile of a loved one, the roof over your head, the lessons learned from past mistakes, the breath in your lungs. These aren't small. They're everything. This realization is liberating. Because once you see that you already have enough, the pressure to constantly strive, to constantly compare, to constantly want, begins to fade. You start to move from a place of fullness rather than lack. You begin to make choices not out of desperation, but out of freedom. Your energy shifts from trying to fill a void to expanding what's already there.